People all over the internet right now are freaking out because there are reports that the United States Postal Service is distributing a letter to their carriers and their workers stating that there could be travel restrictions and curfews very soon and that they need to carry their essential work documents. That's what we're hearing. This hasn't happened since COVID. That is why this is extremely concerning. But I want to show you that letter, and then we're going to talk about, explain what could be coming. Again, we do not know why the United States Postal Service decided to send this out to all their workers or to workers in certain states, but there's speculation here from workers themselves, and I'll break that down in just a moment. But look at this right here.
Apparently, postal workers were given this letter on January 5th, 2026. Subject line, Postal Service employees continue to provide essential services. Keyword essential. Are you ready for this? It states during large-scale emergencies, epidemics, hurricanes, civil unrest, etc., states and localities may issue curfew orders or other directives restricting travel and other commercial and personal activities. Even if the state or local action does not contain such an exemption, the Postal Service's operations are governed by federal law. Therefore, they are essential. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Employees and contractors should carry the essential services letter with them as they perform duties for the Postal Service and travel to and from work.
Okay, so that's the letter, and I'll show you the letter right here, okay? Now, it's going to be a little bit blurry, okay, but you can see the bulk of the letter right here, okay? Now, I want to discuss this because a lot of people are saying that this is fake, okay? That this is because Doug Tulino, who was the temporary Postmaster General, he's not the current Postmaster General. He has some other role in the United States Postal Service. But this is another one, okay? I want to show you this, okay? This says Essential Service Provider Letter. This is what many people in the United States Postal Service are receiving at this time. Now, I reached out to a friend of mine who does work for the U.S. Postal Service, and this is what he had to say, okay? I simply asked, are these letters that are circulating around online, is this real? Sent him a photo of the letter, okay? And he said, and I quote, I haven't received this letter yet, but I also don't work in any of the areas of protest. From what I have heard from other workers, these are being issued to workers likely in Minnesota, Oregon, California, and New York, potentially Washington soon. These letters take time to get to the mail clerks, the handlers, and carriers. My best guess is that the PMG, or the Postmaster General, is concerned that there will be curfews here soon, and so they are preparing for that. That's what he had to say.
All right, shalom, shalom. Before I get started, I want to give a praise, honor, and glory to Yahawah, Yahawahshi, Rakakadash. This is the brother Abakala Walam, here with another hopeful edifying lesson to the elect body of Yahawah, Yahawahshi. You know, this is saying it's real or it's not. Nonetheless, you know, I believe it's real. I seen some people on social media posting the very same thing, saying that there's a letter out, like you just heard the guy explain. And I'm gonna just read this first. This disclaimer for United States Code 107 of the Copyright Act. Right, this is for fair use for purposes of such as criticisms, comment, news, reporting, teaching, scholarships, and research. Right, fair use. Right, United States Code 107. And I took a screenshot because I seen this also on TikTok, and that's what they said. Take a screenshot. You know, I didn't like read it thoroughly, but more or less, it was explaining the video. It's because of what civil unrest. You see here, it's during large scale emergencies epidemics, hurricanes, civil unrest, etc. Right? So what's civil unrest and lockdowns are in the scriptures, right? So you see what was given there says a warning from UPS. UPS warns of civil unrest in major cities because of what happened in Minnesota with this lady that got shot or deleted, um, fatally wounded or deleted by an ICE agent, right? And this is all scriptures, right? This is all a prophecy, right? This is second Ezra 15 and second Ezra 15 and 14. It says, "Woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands." Right. So that lines up with Revelation chapter 12 and 12. Uh, the devil come down, woe unto the inhabitants of the earth and the sea, because the devil has come down unto you having great wrath, because he know that he have but a short time. So this is a part of this devil's wrath, right? You see, he's coming down with great wrath from the seas to the lands, to the people that dwell in the seas to the lands. And that devil, you know, that was blessing of the sword, whose blessing was the sword, is Esau, right? Second Ezra chapter 15 and 14, it says, "Woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princesses, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power." Right? So you see sedition in America on at a heightened level. You know, you go into that word sedition. You know, just to, so people to get an understanding. Sedition. Sedition is conduct or speech inciting people to rebel against the authority. Salakia. Sedition is conduct or speech inciting people to rebel against the authority of a state or monarch, right? So these people protesting is a form of that, you know, more or less. They can take it as a form of that. And they are in this government ran by the devil, you know, Edom. They're basically doing that. They had passed a law, NSPM 7, which is the National Security President Memorandum 7, right? And that's basically talking about domestic terrorism and who basically is considered a domestic terrorist or domestic terrorist, and that basically can be anyone, right? And they was talking about lockdowns, and this is prophecy, right? It says Second Ezra chapter 15 and 16. It says, For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another, and they shall not regard their kings nor princesses, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power." Verse 17, it says, a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. So those are lockdowns due to what? People desiring to go into a city but shall not be able. They said this letter wasn't given out since COVID, since that seat thing. So they lock cities down cities were locked down or on some type of curfew, certain parts of the area during that seat thing, and that was example of that. So they was basically talking about civil unrest, which is sedition, more or less sedition among men, right? Civil unrest, second Ezra 15 and 15. Basically, he's talking about that, right? For the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands, right? So that's basically the civil unrest, right? People are fighting one against another. That's civil unrest, right? And they shall not regard their kings and their princesses, right? And there shall be sedition, and a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able, because they're gonna be locked down, just like they in that this whatever the reason is. It says here is, epidemics, hurricanes, which is natural disasters, and civil unrest, and etc. Could cause the state and local governments to restrict people's movements. So that's lockdowns, curfews, right? So we just telling you this because it's prophecy and it's biblical that these things are going to occur, and you see it, once that's watching, like the scripture says, like the Lord Yahawah Yahawahshi said, watch as well as pray. So we were watching for these things, his prophecies, and you can see it if you're watching, if you have eyes to see, the eye salve, right? As the scripture says. So we see these things coming upon the earth gradually, seditiously, right? In a gradual state, because that's how this serpent is moving gradually. You trying to sneak up on you, but before you know it, it's gonna be too late. Cause more or less, that's how the day of the Lord is gonna come, as a thief, right? So I'm gonna go and end it off there, because basically that's what this is. A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able, right? Civil unrest. Why? Because the sword and their destruction draweth nigh. One people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands, right? That's that civil unrest, right? So I'm gonna go and end it off there. I was edifying to the elect. I'm gonna say, call Yahawah, Yahawah, Ba'ashem, Yahawashi, Ba'ashem Rakakadah, Shalom. To the next time, Yahweh Ratazah, which means Lord willing. Wa, Abba, Babal.